Hey, what's up guys? This is Ken for TalkAndroid.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Motorola Moto G5 Plus. Now Motorola has a really strong track record with their premium mid-rangers, so let's see if this one actually holds up. Now this device is carrier unlocked and it has Android 7.0 out of the box with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 625 octa-core processor with an Adreno 506 GPU. It is sporting 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage, and also SD card slot support, which is pretty nice. The display is 5.2-inch IPS LCD, full HD, no 4K there, but it does have Gorilla Glass 3 on it. Now the battery is 3000 milliamp hours, which does support turbocharging as well. Now there is no waterproofing on this device, but there is a water repellent coating, whatever that amounts to. The rear camera is 12 megapixels with dual autofocus pixels and an f1.7 aperture. Your front camera, meanwhile, is a 5 megapixel with an f2.2 aperture. The speaker is front facing and it does include a micro USB port and a headphone jack. Now as far as aesthetics are concerned, this actually has a really nice sleek feel to it. Full metal build, no shiny metal on the back, which I actually like because there's no fingerprint action going on back here. Now for its size and its thinness, this actually has a really great feel in the hand. It's actually really easy to hold. Now on the side here, we do have a textured home button, which actually has a really nice feel below the thumb. And also the volume rocker is on the same side. The keys are actually really clicky and have quite a bit of travel. And it is worth noting that on the back here, this camera bump is very pronounced, although it's not that big of a deal. On the front, you will notice that there is a little dimple here. This is actually not a button. This is a little fingerprint reader, which we'll actually get to more in a second. Now onto the hardware. We've got the 5.2-inch display on there, which actually looks really nice. Overall, the colors are accurate, but when you compare them to some of the other flagships on the market, the colors are a little bit duller, but let's be honest, most of the other phones tend to oversaturate the colors out of the box, at least from what I've seen. Now this display is actually really bright, and in direct sunlight, it holds up to my S7 Edge. Now even though this display is only full HD, it does deliver a really pleasing video viewing experience. The pixel density is nice and dense, and so web pages come up nice and clearly. Everything looks really great on it. There's really no need for 4K whatever on the screen. Call quality was good, voices rang through clearly, and the other party didn't have any trouble hearing me. Now with the battery, again a 3000 milliamp hour battery, and it holds up super well. I was easily pulling between 10 to 12 hours of usage on a single day, and the turbocharging works really great. As I mentioned before, the speakers are front facing, or rather the speaker is front facing, and it's not stereo, you've only got one on the top there. But even then, it still sounds really great, and I'm super happy to have a front facing speaker on a device like this. You might recall from my S7 Edge video, one of my gripes was having a down facing speaker. Now it sounds clear, but again, for a device of this size, it is kind of expected that once you turn it up loud enough, it does start to distort a little bit. Now this phone does have a headphone output, which is actually super nice, especially when you consider the Moto Z and the fact that it seems to be the new trend to do away with that. But yeah, it's actually really loud and has a nice hot output on it. Camera quality is overall excellent, especially when you consider the price. Now lower ISOs don't actually introduce too much noise, but if you do blow up the image to full scale, you will see some of the finer details running together. Now this phone does have an HDR feature in the camera, which is pretty standard, but even then, there tends to be some dynamic range issues, especially in sunlight. Now the front-facing camera on this phone does do really well, but it seems to bring out more of the problems that I mentioned with the rear-facing camera. So the dynamic range problems are a little more obvious, and there is even noise at lower ISOs. Video performs especially well. But again, there is some issues with dynamic range there, and there is stabilization built into this camera, which is a nice feature, and it doesn't tend to warp or anything like that in the corners. Alright, now onto the fingerprint scanner. Like I said, this is not an actual home button, this is just a little dimple here, but it's really recessed into the housing of the phone, and it's really easy to feel. Now what threw me off initially about having this phone was the little fingerprint scanner and then having the capacitive buttons above it, but that can be fixed, and we'll get to that in the software features. Now this little fingerprint scanner does have some subtle haptic feedback to it, and as a fingerprint scanner, it works really well and is super responsive. As you can see, you can actually unlock it without having the lock screen turned on there, and it works even when my thumbs are greasy or there's some moisture on the home button, whatever it is. Like I said, really responsive. I definitely say it outperforms my S7 Edge's fingerprint scanner. Now onto software and performance. This is running vanilla Android, of course, and it is running Android 7.0 out of the box. As such, the performance is super smooth and I haven't noticed any hiccups with it. However, I'm not a huge fan of the Google launcher, and as you might remember from my S7 Edge video, I've been using Nova Launcher for forever now. And maybe I've just gotten too used to it, but a few things that really bother me is the persistent Google search bar at the top there, which you cannot get rid of. On top of that, you also have a shortcut to the Google app if you swipe all the way right, which in my opinion is super redundant. The other thing worth noting is that in the settings menu, the search function is a little inconsistent. If you see here, I was actually searching for sound settings, and when I typed sound, it took me to accessibility. Now there is a quick notification sort of display on this device here. It's not a true always on display, which doesn't bother me because I've never really been too keen on the always on displays anyways. But the quick notification access on this works really well, and it's one of my favorite things about this phone. It's super intuitive, it's really easy to see in direct sunlight, and if you touch on the icons that come up on the notification screen, you can actually get a preview of that notification. I really do enjoy the quick notification screen on here. It works way better than the HTC Ultra's notifications and also better than the Samsung S7 Edges. Now there is a built-in Moto app which includes some gesture functions, and some of them are more useful than others. I think one of the most notable ones is the twist to activate the camera function, which is nice, but it's a little awkward. And again, you can twist it and go to the front-facing camera there. Then you've also got this quirky flashlight gesture there. Basically, now you do have this quirky flashlight gesture here, basically shaking the phone this way will turn on the camera. I used it maybe once, and I think it might have been on accident. Now my favorite gesture feature by far is this one-handed usage idea here with this home button. And this is one that I started to mention earlier. Basically the idea is you can replace the capacitive on-screen buttons solely with this little fingerprint scanner. Again, this is probably my favorite gesture feature and one of my favorite features overall of this phone. It works a treat. So the way you use it is that you can actually tap this button to go home. You can press and hold to lock it. If you swipe right to left, you'll go back, and if you swipe left to right, you'll access your apps, your recent apps, excuse me. It might sound a little clumsy at first, but I really got used to it very quickly, and I found that even when I switched back to my other devices, I would just naturally try to use those gestures on the home buttons. Now it's not without its quirks. Sometimes the accuracy can be a little bit off, sometimes it'll read a tap as a touch and hold, so then it'll just lock the screen, or it'll read a back swipe as a touch to go home. Now while the execution could use a little work, like I said, I do love the idea, and it's one of the more interesting ideas that I've seen in a phone lately. Now finally with the camera software, it is very simplistic, perhaps a little too simplistic. Outside of the manual mode, there aren't really a whole lot of options to choose from. Now speaking of the manual mode, it is very comprehensive, but the UI again is a little clumsy with all of the options being laid out across the screen there. Now there seems to be a trend among the manual modes and some of the other camera softwares. I think having all the manual controls featured in icons off to the side would probably make a little more sense rather than having them laid out across the screen. But you know, what do I know? My phone. So overall, how does the phone stack up, especially when you consider Motorola's great track record for their G series? Well, I think it's a really brilliant phone. Again, especially for the price. The thing is only $300, and for the money, you're getting a really great value. There's a lot to love here and a lot of potential. You've got your sleek metal build, a great camera, a really intuitive fingerprint scanner with the one-handed gestures. I mean, like I said, there's definitely a lot to love here. And really, its only competitor at this point would be something from OnePlus. Well, I think that about does it for this one. Do you have a Motorola Moto G5, or have you used any of the G series before? If you have, let me know in the comments down below what you think, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Once again, my name is Kent for TalkAndroid.com. Quick aside here, sorry if these videos seem a little hastier or different than usual. As you saw in the beginning, I do have quite a bit of a workload built up here. What are you doing? I told you we don't have time for this extra stuff. Get back to work. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.